Stellaris Overlord expansion sponsored by Paradox. Right now, the base game is free to play. This lizard wants you to play it. You wouldn't want to upset him, would you?
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
A lot of people point out that democracy and capitalism have their flaws. But all things considered, maybe it's the best solution we've got so far. Some naysayers predict the downfall of the American experiment, that our system is doomed to falter under its own weight. To put this to the test and save the human race some time trying to find the right economic and political system before we enter the space age, I decided to try to model how an American society would function in space. Could we really create an American galactic empire? What would it look like? I'm Ambiguous Amphibian. Join me today on a journey into an America that has not yet taken shape, but may very well one day in the far reaches of our galaxy. In the year 2137, George Washington rises from the dead and leads American scientists in a series of breakthrough technologies that fling our country hundreds of years ahead of its competitors and permit cheap, reliable use of space travel to private and public enterprises alike. After all other nations are filled with monkey people. No one is as powerful as Supreme Commander George Washington Starr, CEO and nabob of the humans of Earth. By this point in time, Florida has conquered the planet. But our voyage beyond the sun has only just begun. Through advanced cloning and genetic engineering techniques, we have evolved the entirety of our population into fearless, uninhibited Florida men, capable of withstanding extreme temperatures, and known to survive for extended periods even in the vacuum of space. This was the original reason to locate the space program in the Sunshine State. Some call it manifest destiny, others call it unlawful and aggressive imperialism. Whatever moniker, we're leaving the Geneva Convention behind and heading for Alpha Centauri, the site of New Texas, the next most important state and the first colony beyond our noble American solar system. General Washington Starr leads our fleet across the Delaware hyperlane to the new Louisiana territory, where he discovers and crushes the local aliens, mere bugs underfoot. After beaming the solar system with science, Proxima Centauri b appears to be a potential candidate for terraforming. But it'll be years before we can settle the exoplanet, even by the robust, adaptable Florida men. So before we can settle the new exoplanets and make them suitable for habitation, we redirect all of our resources and efforts to surveying and patrolling the newly explored faraway lands of the cosmos. With our naval fleet, we discover a planet of primitive peoples on Avior 1, trapped in the quarrelsome nuclear age of their civilization. The corpse of a titanic monster resting beneath the surface of their orbiting moon ominously is interfering with their brain chemistry from hundreds of thousands of miles away. A truly horrifying reality. So we avoid this planet for a while. Instead, we opt to invent fracking. Supreme Leader Washington Starr forms a faction in his own country, the Battle Brethren, an organization of elites dedicated to advocating more fighting with other people, even though we haven't found anyone yet. Whoever they are, we don't like them. Having firmly established its national ethic and moral compass, the new United States continues its expansion throughout the cosmic sector, building an observation post above Avior 1 to observe the unfolding nuclear war and take note of good ideas. We opt to subtly influence their culture and society. In the words of Terence McKenna, they will become as we are. In the meantime, colonization efforts take place in the burgeoning settlements of New York and New Texas. Ceremonies are held as the intrepid Florida men venture beyond Florida, beyond the stars, beyond where any Florida man has ever stepped foot, a binary star system, whole new frontiers for the galactic empire of the United States of America. And just when we finally find some breathing room to stretch out and expand our empire, we come into contact with my nemesis, the evil, ancient mining robots. But it turns out they're pushovers. But a sense of malaise still pervades the air as we grind them to space dust. Speaking of which, our Navy has doubled in size, and we're now sitting at a stalwart fleet of 24 ships. We finally make our first encounter with the peaceful squid people, grotesque cephalopods, too gross to look at. In order to keep placating the Battle Brethren and convince them we were cool, we openly declared our hatred for the squid people. Aliens are bad. We toyed with the notion of proposing their voluntary subjugation, but ultimately settled on expanding the Galactic American Navy, outfitting our fleet with tens of new destroyer-class vessels. But it still wasn't enough for the Battle Brethren, so we cleared the natural impediments to development in New Texas, New York, and the freshly christened tropical colony of New Hawaii, splendid in its beauty. This paved the way for our corporate culture sites to improve unity across our empire. Our dreams and our destinies as a species lay across many suns. We encountered yet more detestable aliens, even more abhorrent than the squid from before, this time human-sized beetles. What would they come up with next? And so as we attacked more evil aliens that lay in our path, we grew to earn the trust of the Battle Brethren and began researching technologies to try to make George Washingstar immortal, or at least alive for an unnaturally long span. It was then that we founded a new colony called California. Just regular California. By this point in time, plate tectonics have shifted to such a degree that California has just become its own separate planet. General Washingstar proposes that we rename the United States of America to just Florida. Not only has the state conquered North America, not just the world, but all of the universe. Manifest destiny, not just from sea to shining sea, but inner rim to outer rim, perhaps. Our Floridian army has excelled so greatly in combat, so as to be able to easily put down a space squid. We also hunt down a large rock, drifting with no leader in a deathly course toward California in the Habrak system. Having united our country and agreed that all other factions are full of wimps, the state openly endorses the Battle Brothers, only before it encounters the strangest extraterrestrials, a hive of titanic, gas-grazing leviathans that sail on outstretched carapaces along the solar winds of Tiana Vec. Terrible or beautiful, depending upon your perspective, and a bunch of vegan robots that try to prevent us from settling the last of our colonies, Miami, in the Wankwort system. We narrowly avoid provoking them before we encountered a whole circus of ridiculous new aliens, the Lypian Forerunners. Strange, though I can get behind the having 4 arms part, that seems useful. This guy, and this thing. I'm trying my best to withhold my vomit, because I have an irrational fear and hatred of bugs. The universe is home to a cornucopia of diverse alien life, but I fear the unknown, and most of it I want to squish. Hydra people? Realistic Star Fox? Was George Washingstar going to just sit there and watch the Senate vote away all of his diplomatic power through democratic silencing? No, there had to be another way. So, in secret, I connived and I schemed, constructing a fleet of new cruisers and training foot soldiers to invade the squid homeworlds. No more rulership by fish people, vampires, and literally Polyphemus. The Guardian Angels Act was the last straw, decimating my Senate vote because of the size of my army. I loved democracy, and they were taking away my votes. We moved swiftly and decisively to declare war on the squid, insulting them, telling them that they smelled bad and they were ugly, and claiming that, their empire was ours. And if I'm being completely honest here, going to war against pacifists in Stellaris? Very good idea, I recommend it. So we embarked upon a montage of cool space battles, but they were pretty one-sided because it hurt the squid people's consciences to fight back against us. As our navy grew, we became recognized once again in the Senate, and as the war went on, we gradually just kept claiming that more of their stuff was also ours. Florida had expanded almost beyond a manageable size, and embarked upon its 1,000-year crusade of pest control against life-size bugs. By the end of it, our empire had grown, and the only people stronger than us were this large, sentient rock, and of course the Lypian Forerunners, because they're so handy. Get it? That is, until the robot people we had trusted as custodians of our empire took our jobs and our wives, leaving us out of home. Upon the return from our galactic crusade, when we came to our fatherland, and our general, George Washingstar, lay dead, robots had taken everything in our beloved Florida. And that's why we sojourn here, marooned, cold on an exoplanet, exiled, but perhaps someday, maybe just someday, we'll return as redeemers. Anyway, That's what I think would happen if the United States were to potentially lead the space race and contend with giants. But that's just my 2 cents. Big thanks to Paradox once again for sponsoring this video. Stellaris just got a new Overlord expansion, but if you've never tried out the game at all, this weekend the base game is free to explore for yourself. And as always, thanks to my patrons who don't take my job when I leave to go off to war in Troy. I'm Ambiguous Amphibian. Until next time, my friends.